Hello and welcome to another Reil review. I'm Bryant.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Erica.
And today we'll be talking about Tranquility.
So let's get into it.
So, Erica, when would this game be hitting the table for you?
I love the relative simplicity of this game, but it does require a bit of space, as you can see. So it is quite limited by that. I would like for it to hit the table fairly often. It's a cooperative game, which is big with our group, and I love them as well. It's pretty, it's fun, it's nice to play, and it's just the right difficulty it's just the right difficulty. Depending, actually, if you have more players, it's harder. Fewer players, it's a little bit easier because you have more control of the cards in the deck. So I would like to play this game maybe more often than we have, but we only bought it semi-recently, so I mean that's not saying too much. It's a nice warm-up game for the night, so you can pull this out. It only took us however long it took us, 20 minutes, something like that. So I could actually see it hitting the table fairly regularly.
Yeah, I feel like this is a game for me where I could even play with my nieces and nephews and family and stuff like that, and you could just pull it out on an evening, maybe play it 5 or 6 times even.
Basic arithmetic.
Yeah, basic arithmetic, not too hard to explain. Pretty easy to pick up on, and again, because you're working together. And I think it would be easy, like, we're not supposed to talk about the game while you're playing, but if I were playing with somebody younger, I could easily walk them through and...
Like, I hope that you play in the desert
yeah, exactly. It's easy to leave hints to help somebody who's
snowy
new
regions
or
looking
younger.
there.
Yeah, I mean, the rules are always like you can't cooperate or you can't talk. It's a cooperative game. But I mean, play how you want to. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's meant to be fun. So if you have more fun, joke
and it's a
around,
co-op, so it's like nobody's getting screwed over if you cheat.
Yeah.
So, you know...
For me, because of the size it actually does take up, it maybe hits a little bit less because it's not something that you can pull out like on a coffee table as easily, just because it does take up a bit of room. And also for me, like it's a fun game, but I'm not gonna like spend the night playing it especially if you don't play with a bunch of expansions. And I do find this game it feels better with 2 or 3 players. It plays up to I think 5. But once you hit that 4 or 5 player mark, the difficulty does ramp up quite quickly, I felt. Especially because like it's harder to read each other's minds. But yeah, it's just for me, I like it as a 2-player or as a 3-player game, and then I like adding in some of the little mini expansions, which we'll probably talk about in a little bit. But yeah, for me, it probably will hit the table less than you guys, but...
It's nice that it's a small box game, so it's super portable.
Yep.
So if you're going over to a friend's place and you know that you're going to be playing a lot of their games, or you've got a couple of games that you're bringing, it's so easy to just throw in and bring.
And it's a good filler.
Because it's a filler
It's
game,
a good
right?
filler.
Yeah. Yeah.
how about immersion?
So the theme of the game is that you're supposed to be on a journey and navigating your way through all of these various lands to get to your end point. I don't know that the theme necessarily translates well. The theme is nice and it makes sense with kind of what you're doing. But it is essentially just a cooperative card game with some very nice art on it. The expansions, which I know that you haven't seen, are thematic in a way as well, because there's the sea monster expansion, there's the rough seas expansion with the compasses, and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
storms that hit that make give you detriments to your hand size and stuff like that. You have to play a compass out of your hand to navigate through the storm, kind of thing.
And those cards are very thematic because it's not numbers on it. It's a sea monster card, right? Or it's a stormy seas card. So
but
those ones help a little bit, but in essence, it is just numbers on a card, right?
Yeah, so basically, when you just described the theme there, I just played an entire game and didn't realize that was the theme. Yeah. So it's really not really a factor, at least in the base game here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think it's a game that relatively needs theme, but I think that when you slap the theme onto it and you put these picturesque landscapes on it, it does look really nice. Yeah. And so it's like, it's helpful that it has that theme so that you can get this art and this like kind of concisive feel to it, but it doesn't really like shine through in any of the mechanics that you're doing because you're playing a card out of your hand and you're looking at the numbers and that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the game where it said, "Oh, do you have any wheat fields or any?"
Oh yeah, the dinosaur extinction card or the yeah.
So you can kind of describe cards based on the art on them, but the art doesn't necessarily translate to anything useful in the game.
Yeah, and even these ones, it's harder. Well, yeah, it's about the same, really. It's like, oh, do you have any
pink card,
pink top cards, right? And even then, like this game discourages table talk, so you wouldn't say it as much.
It's supposed to be played absolutely silently, which. I mean,
it's probably a good way to keep your kids quiet if you're playing with them.
Yeah, that's probably...
Could be.
Maybe that was the strategy. Well, anyways, so kind of you touched on it already, but what about art and component quality?
Art, I love it. It's what drew it to me on the shelf. It's a small box game. It had really nice art on it, and it said a cooperative card game or something like that on the front. All three of those just made me gravitate right to it, especially since we were on a trip when we bought this. So I thought, perfect, I can pack this away really easily. But definitely the art drew me into it. Component quality, it's cards. They're nice cards. I do like the fact that they've decided to go with this grid idea rather than have a board that you roll out, which keeps it into a small box. So I think the box is a nice something you can throw in a bag. If you are the type to throw a game in a bag, you can just throw it in a bag and take it wherever you want.
Throw it in the bag before it hits the table.
Yeah. No hitting this game on the table. But yeah, anyway, I think it's really nice for what it is. It's a relatively inexpensive game, but that's just because essentially it's cards in a nice box. So I think it's great for what it is.
And I agree with that. The artwork is really a good sale for this game as well. So like I was saying, like theme-wise in terms of playing doesn't really mean much, but the artwork is really, really nice to look at. It's very zen for a game called Tranquility. Get a little intense there, but and as you were pointing out off camera, there's lots of little animals.
Yeah, little cute creatures.
Cards, lots of bears and a turtle.
A couple of houses and that, right?
Yeah.
And it's neat that you get like the day and the night cycle on each card. And there is one of the mini expansions, one of the mini rule sets, if you will. You're actually rotating them, so then the day versus night does matter sometimes. And it's a neat element that you can add in. Like, you're gonna have the card, it's gonna have to have the number on the top and the bottom, so that whatever direction it is.
The fact that they made that into a mini expansion.
The fact that they actually use that as part of the game is neat, right? And yeah, the art's good, the cards are good quality, all fits in a nice little box.
The box is lovely.
There's nothing wrong with the components. It's hard to point out anything else because there's
that's really all there is
component to the game.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so mechanics and rules. Anything that stands out that you like or dislike?
Well, if you know basic arithmetic, it's a very easy to understand game. If you ever play adjacent to any existing card, you discard cards equal to the difference between the two.
Yep.
And that's as simple as that. Strategically, we have explained it to a couple of our friends, and they didn't quite understand that at first you should leave gaps. So that, for instance, in this, if I were playing this, and this, and then here, I'd only have to discard one card, and here, another one card. So there you're discarding two cards, but if you play this first, then this, you're discarding one, then this, another one, then this, a third one.
Yep.
Is about the most complicated mechanic to understand, is that you shouldn't be playing necessarily adjacent early.
Sometimes you got
but you lose a couple times and then you figure it out, right? So mechanics and rules is very simple. The hardest part, I think, is making sure, is this adjacent to that, or what is it? Is it what is what the rows? But I think as soon as you grasp that, it's fine.
Well, or for me, even thinking about like when the deck is like half discarded, and you kind of got to try to think about, okay, what have people been throwing away?
Yeah.
That's a little times. So I don't think there was any mechanics I disliked in it at all. Again, it is fairly straight. There's like 3 rules in it.
Yeah.
But I think for 3 rules, there's a lot of gameplay within those 3 rules, right? So there's So there's I think that's always a good sign of game mechanics.
Yeah.
So when you can have 2 or 3 rules with a high degree of strategy involved with them.
For me, the point that I'm going to make on the mechanics is that there are a bunch of mini expansions that come in the box, and they're very easy to add in. They change one little thing, they add one little type of card, one little rule set. One of them changes the layout of the board, so you actually have like these arches and and a bunch of cards
pillars
at the top. Yeah, pillars and an arch. I like that about this game. That's what keeps me interested in it, right? Because playing the same thing a lot more, I would actually probably play the game over this one for the base game. If I'm comparing base to base, I'd probably rather play the other card game because I feel like that scales up more with more players. something I touched on earlier, right? But this one's really neat because you can change it subtly and you can make it a little bit harder, and that's where I think this one shines, is like that 2-player, you get really good at the base game, you know the strategy, now you don't have to talk about anything, and now you start adding in those expansions that just make the game a little bit harder and a little bit harder kind of thing.
And just to clarify, the game that he keeps referring to is called The Game. He's not just
Yeah, not just abstractly referring to some other
that
game.
game over there is called The Game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I just lost the game, and I'm sorry.
Oh, got them all.
All right, and any other thoughts you have on this game?
Overall satisfaction with my purchase. I think it was like a $15 game or something like that. We've brought it to the table a high number of times based on the other games that we bought in the similar time frame. And I'm happy with it. It's a nice little card game to bring out. Even visiting family or whatnot, it's not daunting. So I think I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, it's good. I have friends that will only play cooperative games, so I'm always kind of on the lookout for that sort of game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something I would go out and seek out necessarily, but I think it would be a good one to add to my collection specifically for these friends I have where I'm always looking for what's a good... Did I skip you?
You're pointing at me.
Nat, specifically.
For me specifically.
No.
Prefers
No, I have a couple friends who will only play co-ops. Yeah, I didn't mean Matt, I was just gesturing towards his house over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always good for me to keep in mind games like this, and again, a good price point. So I think the amount of gameplay you're getting for $15 and the quality of the art and everything for $15, I think is really good.
Yep, absolutely. Bang for a buck is right there. Yeah, it's a cute little game. You can get it to the table. It plays quickly. It teaches relatively quickly too, wouldn't you say? Because there's really only...
Oh, I learned it, I think, fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think Bryant learned it 5 minutes before we started filming. So
Yeah.
I went to go make tea. I came back and you basically
Yeah, I basically learned the game
So there
and
you go.
mastered it.
pretty easy to pick up
100%
on.
win rate.
So.
Yeah, 100% win rate.
Yeah.
Never played
Never
again.
lost. Yeah. All right, well, thank you much. Oh, let me try that again. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great evening and great gaming.
Bye.
Anyways, so Matt, Erica, how was your day today? Anything special going on? Any cat fiascos?
I didn't fall
Any
off my bike.
catastrophes? Oh, that's
You
good.
didn't fall
I
off your
didn't
bike
fall
today,
off my
yeah.
bike
That's
on the way
good.
to work
That's always a
because
good,
That,
good.
that hurt a lot yesterday.
Oh, is that what happened yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.